been a tough week here this week. Yeah, we've had some background challenges that have been pretty difficult, but we still have managed to make a good bit of progress, and I want to show you some of that, as well as talk about some of the challenges we've faced. Let's start here with Nifty. We've got a workaround, a wire jumper that we've got it where it'll run now. I really can't use it yet. I've got to redo all of this energy chain here. They call this the energy chain that holds this wire and the hoses here when it extends. These two wires were debug wires. We'll take those out. But we do have it where it will run. Once we get the energy chain put on, then we'll be able to use it. I'm still not sure what I have to do to be able to remove the jumper wire. I've got some work to be done there. The support team in South Carolina, I believe, has been helpful. I've been slow to respond. You know, it's email sometimes and text, so it's getting coordinated with them and understanding. The last issue that we dealt with was the brakes were set. There's a brake release right here. You take these two bolts off right here and turn this around and use that knob to insert in there to release the brake, and you have to do that on all four hubs. I assume trying to pull it while it was dead was part of the problem there, but that's where Nifty is. I believe we're going to be able to get it working, and just in time. Got the door locks on and configured at this point. These are the Schlage Encode Plus locks. They're pretty expensive. I chose them for a couple of reasons. I wanted something reliable, and the reviews I read on these were reliable. Some of the less expensive ones, they said, hey, this works great about 70% of the time. Well, I wanted something that would work 100% of the time. So I chose these partially for that. The other reason is they have HomeKit, Apple HomeKit, and that allows us to use our watch and our phones to unlock in addition to key codes, and so I think that's going to be important for me. They integrate with a software product called Home Assistant that I'm going to use as kind of my master automation, I guess you would say, tool to get things so that I can lock the doors at night remotely. And yeah, the one other reason I chose this one was because of the communication protocol it uses. It should use less battery life. So this is using something called Thread. If you don't care, skip on to the next chapter. But yeah, that's what we got going there. If you're interested in more detail on what we're doing home automation wise and go forward, just let me know in the comments. There's a lot of people that do this in more suburban and city style situations. Given our rule setting and how we've got, you know, the shop and everything here, we thought it might be interesting to some folks and maybe to some of this audience that doesn't do a lot with automation. I believe the home automation technology is here now and can actually be helpful and not just a gimmick. You know, I mean, who really cares if the LED lights turn from pink to purple when you enter the room, and yeah, whatever. But I think there's a lot of actual value at this point, and that's where I think maybe I can help out. Let me know if you're interested in the comments. From a struggle standpoint, you guys probably know that Christy and I have been taking care of her dad, Bobby. He's been in several of our videos. He declined a good bit over the past 2 to 3 weeks, and this past week we had to take him to the hospital. He's been in the hospital for several days. Just got out. He had a heart issue, had several pulmonary embolisms, and small ones, they said, in his lungs. They've treated him for that, and he's back home with us now. And so yeah, that's good that he's back, but he's weak because he was in the hospital for several days, and it's kind of put us out of our normal rhythm. Because of that, we were not able to get video of some of the stuff I worked on it here while Christy was working with Bobby. And you could say, well, Tim, why didn't you take video yourself? Well, I was working hard and it was hot, and let me show you some of the stuff that I've done. I've worked with Dave one day and Rex another on this insulation. We've got insulation vertically here, 2 foot below the actual concrete level, actually a little more than that. I'm going to show you some detail here. This is going to be the concrete level, and I wanted a couple inches of concrete right here for rodent prevention, right? I was afraid if this came all the way up to the concrete level that mice could potentially chew through this and get up into the wall that way. We use these little washers here to hold it on, screw it in. It does go 2 foot below, a little more than 2 foot below the ground level. We tried several approaches before we eventually went with the big guns here. I tried using a mini trencher, I tried using a shovel, and finally we just gave up. Looks like we got a cat on the attack here. Yeah, I think he's gonna give up. It wasn't so bad on this side, where on the house side here, there was no driveway here, but on the driveway side over on the far side, it was very challenging to be able to get this insulation and to be able to dig through that layer of hard-packed rock. On this side, we had the old basketball court, and we had to dig out a little bit more of the concrete just because of the huge bucket that we were using. It's kind of sad to me in one sense because I did so much work to compact this and get it compacted as I thought would work best, and now here I've had to dig it all out. I'm gonna have to run a propane line along this side. I was unable to get that done this week. We'll get that done as soon as possible moving forward. But it's gonna run from behind me here down this wall into the office. It's also gonna run that way along the base of that door over there to where that wash bay is, and it will power the pressure washer. I think we can say that the geese migration season is over, and so Wile E. Coyote has moved in to stand guard on the mezzanine. The cats wouldn't get near the pond, well, except for the one stupid one, because when they'd see Wile E. Coyote, they were scared to death. Now, the biggest miracle of this insulation work that we did on each side was that we did not hit the fiber that I buried under the shed before it was built, right? Did a video on that, it wasn't too long ago, and by far the #1 comment that we got is, put it in conduit, put it in conduit, you'll be able to protect it. Well, just to address that comment directly, there was no point in putting it in conduit because when we drilled the post holes, there was nothing we could do to avoid it. If we had happened to hit it, whether it be in conduit or not, the post had to go there. We really had no choice, so conduit wasn't going to help us. It was going to cost a lot more money, and again, it wasn't going to provide any benefit. So by happenstance, we built this whole shop over the top of that wire without hitting it. I think we're done digging at this point. We may not actually break that fiber. But just in case we do, I've got a 2-inch conduit now that we've run all the way up there. You can see a string coming out of it if you look close. And it runs down the side of the wall here, runs down below the new insulation that we put in, or actually near the bottom of it. And then we trenched there. You can see a little bit of it out here. To right there where it comes up, and you can see the string right there below that cap. And that cap is very close to our current fiber box that you see right over here. This fiber connection box was my idea during the last break so that we didn't have to rerun next time the 600 or 700 feet all the way to the front. So there's just this little connection box here. If we have a fiber failure again, if I do hit it at some point, we can make the connection here, use this conduit to go into the shop. And at that point, we'll run the fiber into the mezzanine. We may actually do that intentionally. In fact, I would like to do that intentionally when our build is finished and ready. The next area of progress is our electrical. We've got our 400 amp meter base right here, and then we have 2 disconnects, one on either side for our 2 200 amp services. If you've been watching our planning videos, we talked about this at some detail. but we're going to put one 200 amp box in the mezzanine. I'll show you that in a minute. And then we're going to run wire all the way through the house back to the old 200 amp box. And yes, putting these electrical boxes right by the kitchen window here on the little addition, it pained me a little bit. But they're not as obtrusive as I thought they might be. I've seen a lot bigger ones for 400 amp service. And in theory, we could probably paint these at some point, and so it's not so bad. Hey, got a question here for you for your opinion. This is the brick front that we showed you in our last episode, and just temporarily we've set a piece of trim on there, piece of the darker colored trim. The idea being to make it look a little bit more like the trim around the top of the house here. If you can see, the heads of those soldiers is essentially cut off by a burnished slate piece of trim. And Christy thought that the soldiers looked a little too tall here, and so I proposed maybe we could cover their heads with the same type of trim. Again, Christy thought the soldiers were too tall. I don't really care for the transition between the clay and the brick, but to me, a little burnished slate strip right there really sets it off and makes that palatable to me. And it's also quite similar to the trim that we have at the top of the wainscoting over here. Okay, I gave you my pitch. What do you think? Should we put trim on there, covering those bricks, and then maybe just a little bit, a half an inch or an inch down? Or should we leave it? Okay, back to the electrical. The other item that I had the electrician do right now was to put the box in. Notice he mounted it upside down. He said he likes to mount the boxes upside down, especially in this situation. That allows him not to have to run the big wire all the way up into the box and then over the top and loop back over. This way he can just run it in from the bottom and a real short piece of wire. But I wanted the electrician to do the box install. I wasn't sure about code requirements for height, distance from the wall, just any other details like that, so he slapped that up really quickly. Now, just to get your bearings straight, right straight down there, on the other side of that wall is where the meter base is. I've got an attic ladder to put up here. We're not going to try to use this for storage in any such way, but we're going to have enough electrical and other stuff up here that I'd like to have a ladder. It's just a lot easier. So I intend to put that in up here at some point, hopefully on a cool day, because it's quite warm on the second floor of this mezzanine. Got a lot of feedback from you about using the attic space as storage. A lot of negative feedback, and people were irate. I mean, just totally unreasonable. Oh my goodness, it's all going to collapse. Let me respond to those. Again, it'll just make you more irate probably, but yes, these trusses are weak. We recognize that. But they are, all but one truss is setting on a wall right in the middle. See, there's a wall right in the middle of those trusses. And someone said, oh, that doesn't matter, it'll still all fall in. So I'll let you know when my house falls in. It'll make for a good video. But we will have some stuff coming up here anyway, some HVAC returns and all. So I'm not sure how much storage space will be left. We haven't made a final commitment on that anyway. We have some challenges. If you notice, the height here is lower than it is up here. So there's some challenge there. Also, I'm going to put 5 inches of spray foam insulation in here, and these are only 3.5 tall. So I'd have to put boards the other direction anyway. So haven't done anything yet on this, and quite frankly, given all that we've got to do, that's not the highest priority. Let's look at the plumbing. Our neighbor plumber got some of the rough end done. Vanity drain. Potential laundry drain here and connection. Rough end there. We were thinking maybe a stackable washer and dryer on the other side, but probably not to start with. Just planning for that in the future. He's getting started on the shower mounting here. He says he's going to put concrete under the shower. I like that idea because I don't like when I'm in the shower when you have a floor that gives. And it lots of times will break that little coating layer that they have on these showers. So I'm glad to see that happening. Here's rough end plumbing for the little kitchen sink. Just going to be a small sink. Now I'm in the garage at our existing water supply. This is our continuous pressure system that we had put in last year. And our plumber now has the new line connected that goes out to the shop. So that's a huge step. So we could have water at the shop if we had everything else connected. You'll like this. I got a huge worry out of the way this week. Got some green paint and a small dent. First one I've got in the steel. Now I don't have to worry about getting that first dent anymore. So that's good. Now I had one more piece of damage in here that I'll show you while I'm at it. It is very hard for me to work with a big piece of equipment like this excavator in such a small space. And I'm trying to work right by and under stuff, right? So I tore up this girt right here. Just a 2x4 girt. It's not that big a deal. We can replace it. Cut it right back here at the first joist. But I was trying to watch as I was refilling this actually, and I was dumping dirt down here, and I actually turned the bucket up and didn't even realize that I was pushing out against that girt. Busted it up pretty bad. And I hit the one below it at the same time. Sometime I hit this one, but I didn't bust it up, so it'll be all right. No harm, no foul. But especially on this side, we've got that bottom girt there. Trying to dig in under there was very, very challenging. I had to depend on Dave to do some of that digging, and then we pushed from the outside with a tooth bar on the little bucket. That's how I did that green scratch outside. In a recent video, I talked to you about priorities. Well, sometimes you have to pick and choose. We've just been so swamped. This is our sweet corn patch. After we planted it, we did not get a very good stand, perhaps because I used seed from 2021. And then I just couldn't get around to taking care of it. And really all I had to do was spray it with Roundup. Although when I looked closely, a lot of the weeds in here were water hemp, which Roundup won't kill. And I just let it get away from me. Rather than continuing to look at it and fret about it, I decided just to mow it down. So I'll have to depend on neighbors and friends for sweet corn this year. It's Sunday here, and I typically don't work on Sunday, nor does Christy. So it was just a little day to walk around and kind of show you what we've done all week. I wish I could have shown you some video of some of this stuff in progress. You've seen some of the photos I've taken, but yeah, I just didn't have the mental bandwidth to keep everything going. I have one lesson I'd like to share, and that is with the excavator. I am so happy that I chose a zero tail swing excavator. I was able to drive in with the track just an inch away from one of these posts, and as long as my machine was level, I had no fear of hitting the wall with the body of the machine because of that zero tail swing. If you're using an excavator only for brush work outside, digging outside, you're never going to be close to any buildings or anything. I can see why a machine with some tail swing makes sense. I mean, you can have a lighter machine to accomplish the same goal. But for me, I end up using this machine close to buildings a large portion of the time, probably 30% of the time so far of the hours that I put on the machine. And that's enough that I just wouldn't have been able to accomplish this installation work with a machine that had a tail swing. It would have been very, very challenging. Probably could have got it done somehow, but I probably would have banged up the walls and would not have been good. Now, I mentioned Bobby was in the hospital some of this week. We are actually taking him back to North Carolina. And so we'll be taking a week off here. Now, by the time you see this, we're probably back to work. But we will be taking a week off, and so things will slow down just a little bit during that time. But next up on our schedule is to get that propane line ran and then do the finish work, finish grading in here to get ready for concrete. I think we've chosen our concrete supplier. Not positive yet, but I think we've chosen that and have got a lot of that planning under our belt. Might be a good time for you to mention if you think there's anything else that we need to do before we put concrete down, anything we need to put under the concrete. I've decided at this point not to try to put any power outlets in the floor. I just don't see the need for that. I don't see the need for air in the floor. We are going to put drain in the shop bay. I've decided not to put drains anywhere else. And I think that's about all I'm going to do. I had some big plan before about making a lift station, not really a lift station, but a station that allowed me to test loader lift capacities. And I've essentially bailed out on that for several reasons, and just not going to do that at this point. So we'll be in North Carolina, but again, probably by the time you are watching this video, we may be back in Indiana. We'll see how that goes. And either way, we'll be continuing on this project as well as several other projects over the course of summer. We'll be back in travel mode. We intend to leave Bobby in North Carolina with 24/7 care there, and he can be near his friends and neighbors. And so he's excited about that, been desperate to go home for months. And this will allow us to get back to some of the late summer travel, Farm Progress Show, Equip Expo. What in the world is going on with my cats? And other travel that we may have scheduled that's not finalized quite yet. Really appreciate you guys sticking with us through this project. This has been a lot of fun, and there's a bunch of work ahead. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.
And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose.